Hello, every pony, and welcome to Brony FanFics. You're probably wondering who I am, or why I'm even here. Well, the answer to that is quite simple, actually. I am Scar89. You may remember me way back in a couple videos ago with the one that I did, that double reading, or that co-read with Brony FanFics. The one with the terrible audio, and that was totally my fault. Again, I'm really sorry for that. Um, yeah, I've taken over Crisis Equestria and is and am putting it up on his channel because he doesn't have time. If he hasn't really, if you have, I don't know if he's going to make a video or not about explaining everything about it. I think he will. Once this is up, I'm just explaining it right now. Very long intro. Sorry, I do that. No, it's not his thing, it's my thing. So, anyway, today I will be reading Crisis Equestria, Chapter 23, Isolation. So, um, I guess I'll just jump right in like he usually does. So, Crisis Equestria, Chapter 23, Isolation. Rainbow slowed to a glide as she flew over the coast and took a good, long look around. The coast was awfully wide, certainly wider than any beach she'd ever seen before. To her annoyance, she couldn't see anything along the miles of coast that looked even remotely dangerous. Just sand and rocks and the tide, and more sand, and seaweed, and more rocks, and even more sand, and the vast expanse of ocean off in one direction. The cliffs and mountains between the coast and gar the gargantuans breeding grounds in the other, and more sand, of course. The only thing that really bothered Rainbow about the sand, other than the amount, was the color. Most of the sand she'd seen in her life was brown, ranging from light to dark, but most definitely brown. Maybe a little hint of orange or red in one if one was considering the wasteland. This sand, though, was more of a bleached white, like dirty sugar or salt or something like that. Still, it didn't look dangerous. Going off on a quick little thing. I know that's not what he does, but it's what I do. Um, that is actually white sand, bleached white sand. It's called white sand. I actually live really near it. Called White Sands. White Sands Missile Range for those who live in Las Cruces or near Las Cruces. Anyway, what a load all that danger crap was. Rainbow Dash huffed as she circled around a large, empty expanse of beach. Yeah, right, the coast is dangerous. Tick-tock, oh really? Oh, yeah, right, the coast is dangerous, Tick-tock. Oh really? Where's the danger then? Hmm? Twilight would want proof, and so do I. She snorted and swooped in just a few dozen feet above the coastline, soaring over sand and rock. Sorry, trying to find some hint as to what TikTok was so worried about. What was it exactly that made Applejack the only pony she felt was suitable to handle this place alone? Wait, wait, what? Oh, bunch of scaredy ponies, all of them. Fluttershy and Rarity I can understand being worried about a little danger. Not Applejack, though, she grumbled to shake her head. Whatever, who needs 'em? If they're gonna treat me like some sort of jerk for trying to help, let 'em stew for a bit. See who the real jerks are. They'll beg me to come back. They'll thank me for everything I've done. Let's see now. Which way was Hope's Point again? She looked off to the east, squinting and bringing a hoof to her brow in an attempt to see further for only a moment before she realized that there was still no sun to shield her eyes from, and that she'd done it out of habit. Just there, off in the distance, she could make out something that didn't look like part of the natural terrain. Something strange, but altogether definitely a welcome sight. She spread her wings and took off in that direction, becoming more enthralled with the sight as it got closer and closer. It was glowing, whatever it was, like a little point in the distance. That was it. Hope's Point. The name made sense now. From a distance, it looked like just a little dot on the horizon that one would be able to see from afar, inspiring hope as they got even closer to the end of their journey. Rainbow was elated that it wasn't far away. She'd been there. She'd be there within the hour, or even at the. Uh, sorry. She'd be there within the hour, even at this low speed. It grew closer and closer, and soon enough she could clearly see the first welcome sight she'd seen in half a week. She could just make out the massive port town now, a series of tiny lights spread across a great collision of buildings, all covered by sorry, all covered by a gigantic field of magical light that shimmered and shined. A force field, easily visible, not at all like the last two she'd encountered in the Griffin ruins and the Bloodmire, but more like the one she remembered from Twilight's brother's wedding. This one shined a beautiful golden color and covered the entire harbor city, which she found impressive since the city was quite large, enough that it covered an entire cliff above the branch from the top of the sides of the cliff even down into the ocean below. It wasn't Canterlot, certainly, but it made Ponyville look absolutely tiny. Gliding down as she approached, she saw what looked like a landing strip on the cliff top above beach. Oh, sorry. Where was I? She saw what looked like a landing strip on the cliff top above beach where she could fly in without touching the beach itself. Near it, she saw what looked like a series of pulleys and levers all connected to a platform that was at beach level. An elevator, obviously intended for non-flyers coming to the city. She landed gracefully on the strip, her best landing in months, and strut confidently up to the large door-like barricade that stood at the other end of the landing, which was attached to a small building that was connected to a larger one on the inside. The structure was the only part of the city that was not covered by the shield. It reminded her a lot of the gate back in Pandemonium, only nowhere near as big or sturdy looking. Guess we're not worried about gargantuans, Rainbow hummed out loud, noting that she could feel a familiar shaking sensation under her hooves. She remembered that, too, from Pewter's checkpoint, what felt like ages ago now. Oh, sorry. And TikTok says gargantuans are sensitive to vibrations in the earth. I wonder, is the shaking here what drives them off? How does that work? I bet Applejack would. She frowned and stopped. No, she wouldn't. It's easier to just go around for her, not actually think anything out. TikTok doesn't even think to suggest it, and she's gotta know about it, just like the rest of them, always taking the easy way out. Coming up to the great doorway, she wondered exactly how she was supposed to get it open, or get some pony to let her in, pacing back and forth along the length of it as she examined the details. There was a great deal of scouring across. There was a great deal of scouring across it in several acres. Nothing at all like what she knew would be caused by a physical attack. Unicorn magic, perhaps? The marks looked like they'd been violently applied. A strange notion. There was no doorknobs or buttons or knockers or anything that she could see that would give her entry. In desperation, she just knocked, and, to her surprise, the gate sprung to life, with no large amount of fanfare, but with a noticeable enough amount that Rainbow actually leapt back in surprise. A little panel, no larger than a few feet square across, popped up just above her head. At first, she could see her reflection there, until it too flickered to life with the sound of static. The image of another pony appeared upon it, looking at her with intense security. Whoa, neat! Rainbow found herself saying, knowing that Twilight and Pinkie would find it fascinating. This is just like those, televisions back in the city. How do you change the channel? She tapped a hoof on the screen in an attempt to elicit a reaction from it. Who goes there? The lanky stallion at the other end said, making Rainbow jump again. Whoa! She blinked. Cool! Answer the question, eh? The pony said again. Rainbow, in surprise, in surprised confusion, pointed at herself. The television back in the city didn't ask her any questions. Yes, you. Who did you think I was talking to, eh? He might have been slightly intimidating if his voice didn't make him sound just a little dim-witted. He was a dull brownish orange in color. Oh my god. I think this is supposed to be a joke for snails. Or looking like snails. I don't know. He was a dull brownish orange in color, just a few shades paler than Applejack, but she could only tell from his face and neck as the rest of him was covered by a set of padded brown clothing with red and green patches. It rather thrown together, obviously more practical than fashionable. His pale green mane spread outwards in an awkward bowl cut of sorts that was parted by his horn, which glowed a dull yellow as though he was using it to work whatever device was allowing him to talk with Rainbow from wherever he was. Rainbow couldn't shake the feeling he looked strangely familiar, even sounded familiar. Uh, Rainbow Dash stated, realizing she'd been standing quite too long. Name's Rainbow Dash, and the unicorn held a hoof to interrupt her. Head on through to the second gate. Just needed to check that you were an actual pony coming up, eh? He then pushed a button on the panel in front of him with a hoof. Rainbow stepped back again in awe as the gateway opened up. The screen shut off and flipped back over into the metal as the halves of the doors screeched with the ear-biting sound of metal against rock. A great clunking sound signaled that the gate was all the way open. Rainbow hurriedly trotted forward to enter the building it was connected to. The gate slowly closed behind her, a great clang resounding through the chamber she found herself in now, as the two halves fit themselves back together. Rainbow looked around with concern, not at all expecting a place named Hope's Point to look quite in such poor conditions. This room looked rather devoid of activity or life, save for nearly half a dozen ponies sleeping on chairs lined up against the wall. All of them looked in pretty bad shape, easily as bad or worse than she and her friends were, dressed in tattered and ripped clothing if anything at all. She could smell blood in the air, and saw one of the ponies, a Pegasus stallion, nursing a leg that was covered in stained bandages. They must have made the trek across the wasteland, too, and she marveled at the fact that any pony without the powers she and her friends carried could make this journey alone. The ponies of this world were certainly made of stronger stuff than she gave them credit for. Still, this place didn't look at all like it was very hope-inspiring. It was downright depressing. Besides the Pegasus nursing a bleeding leg, there was a unicorn mare with several scars across her features. Two earth ponies, one stallion and one mare, huddled together in the corner. The mare missing an ear and the stallion covered in burns. There was also a somewhat healthy unicorn stallion there too, where the only thing looking at all wrong with him being that he wore a cloth bandage on his face across his eye, where she could see dried blood. These ponies had sacrificed much to get here, so why were they sitting out in the hall like this? She walked through the chamber until she came to the far other end, purposefully placed well out of earshot of the other ponies in the hall, where there was another gateway, a smaller one, no bigger than a large door. There was a screen just the same as there was outside, already certainly visible, but not displaying an image at all. Just to the side of the door on its own station. Beneath it was a large red button. Rainbow figured out what it did pretty much instantly before she even got close enough to read the words "push to talk" on it. She pushed it, and the screen flickered to life the same as the one outside had done. The unicorn from earlier appeared on the screen, this time holding what looked to her like a clipboard and a pen with his magic. Okay, then. Could you repeat your name for me again? He asked he asked her as he floated the clipboard-like thing closer to him. Rainbow tilted her head, legitimately curious what was going on. She hadn't expected anything to stop her coming into the city. What's with me today? Rainbow Dash. The stallion looked intently at his clipboard, then shook his head. Nope, not seeing it anywhere, eh? Are you on my waiting list? Waiting list? He blinked. The stallion raised an eyebrow. Uh, when you left the city, you visited the airship port, didn't you? We have a contact system there that should have taken your name and your bits and sent your name to us to put on this list. Rainbow's frown was colossal. No, I guess we didn't do that. He frowned. Her frown turned to an angry scowl. Which one of them knew about that and didn't tell us? The stallion shook his head. Well, okay then, eh? So you're not on the waiting list. Just gotta go through the steps then. Do you have a contact on this side? Some pony to vouch for you? That was really weird. Sorry. Rainbow sighed and shook her head. No. She wondered if maybe Lockwood did. Not that she was going to be able to ask him, or even wanted to try. The stallion shrugged. Sorry, ma'am. Can't let you in just yet, then. You'll have to wait in line with the others. We'll get to you when we do a computer background check, so take a seat in the lobby there for a little while, eh? You might want to go ahead and get some sleep. Do you... What the hey do you need a background check for? Rainbow sputtered. Ponies come here practically dying, and you make them wait to get in? Because you might be some pony we don't want to let in, the stallion sneered. Alright, sorry about that. I had to go take my sister to dance, then wait there a whole hour, and then bring her back. Ugh, I know I'm tired now. Okay. Arguing about it isn't going to make this go any faster, eh? Just get in the line. I'd love to go over it with you, but really it's your own fault you didn't register ahead of time. Ugh! How long is this gonna take? Rainbow groaned, defeated. Well, the first pony in line, that unicorn mare with the red coat, she's still got another 2 days and... 2 days? Rainbow blurted. How does it take that long to do a background check? I'd rather not say. I'm not being difficult, but precautions are precautions for a reason, eh? Rainbow threw her hooves up in exasperation. Look, I need to get help for the rest of my party. We've got injured and we're starving. So just stop asking questions and let me in. Hey, keep it down if you're gonna start with that, eh? The stallion on the other end said nervously. He then he stayed totally silent for far too long, before speaking again. Okay, and what are we waiting for? Rainbow stared at the unicorn in confusion. What kind of response was that? What? I asked you to let me in. And? The stallion asked again. And what? Rainbow cried in annoyance. Keep it down, he spurted. And aren't you going to say the rest of the password? Why didn't you do this in the first place, eh? Could have saved us both a bunch of time. Rainbow just stared again, completely confused as to what the heck was happening. She hadn't expected this, and was about to ask what was going on, but decided against it, shaking her head and deciding that playing along was the better idea in this situation if it might get her into the city faster. Oh, right. The password. Why didn't you ask it in the first place? She rolled her eyes, trying to sound annoyed and doing a fair job of it because she actually was. Oh, well, I'm used to ponies saying it right away, eh? You must be new, though. But that's alright. Look, we'll start this again. Go ahead. Rainbow flustered, trying to remember what she had started with. Okay, let me in? No, you missed a step. I what? You missed the first part. I said start at the beginning. Right. Rainbow nodded. What had she said? What had she said that kicked off this whole thing? Stop asking questions, and let me in, and And she panicked. What could the password Possibly be? Suddenly, her face brightened, and she got an idea. Maybe if she stalled for time, she'd be able to guess, or maybe he'd let slip a hint. It's what Twilight might have done. I forgot. And you forgot what? The unicorn asked with absolutely astounding sincerity. Rainbow was at a loss, not sure what to make of this. Was this unicorn just dense or what? Perhaps honesty would be the best policy here. What would Applejack do? Look, okay, it's like this. I forgot the password. The unicorn shook his head. See, no, you almost got that right. You got the fourth part wrong, eh? Rainbow blinked. No, I mean, I forgot the password. Please, just let me in. No, you've got it all wrong again, the unicorn sighed. You said the same thing as last time, eh? Only you should. Only you said it in reverse, and you missed the first step again, and got the same part wrong as last time, only it was in a different part. And. Okay, you're starting to get me all confused, eh? Try again. Rainbow groaned. Well, so much for trying to be honest about it like Applejack, or trying to be forceful like herself, or trying to guess like Twilight would. Maybe, well, what about trying to be cordial? That always seemed to get Rarity out of a jam with astounding success. It was worth a try, even if she wasn't sure she could quite mimic Rarity's charm. Okay, look here, my, good fellow. I'm sorry that I'm making this difficult, but I'm in a lot of trouble and I really need to get in there. So please stop asking questions and let me in. I don't know the password, but no. See, now you changed the part that you got right. The unicorn huffed impatiently. You were, 3 for 4, but now you're. So much for trying Rarity's approach. What would TikTok do then? Just open. Just open the damn door. Oh, now you're just guessing. Hey, keep it down, please. Rainbow. Whoops. Rainbow groaned. Well, so much for trying to be honest about it like Applejack, or trying to be forceful like herself, or trying to guess like Twilight. Oh, wait. Oh, darn it, I read that already. Oh, I'm stupid scrolling. Wow, I'm having the exact same problem as he is. Uh, Keep it down. Rainbow was about to start shouting at the screen again when another unicorn showed up. This one short and stout compared to the tall and lengthy one. He was a unicorn too, dressed the same, but with a grayish green coat and orange mane kept in a rather roguish style. Rainbow was confused by the fact that they both looked familiar, especially in such close proximity. What seemed to be the problem here? The short unicorn asked. Rainbow stifled a laugh. The unicorn's voice was much too nasally to be coming from a pony with that stature. If Pinky were here, she'd. Oh, right. Oh, hey there, buddy. The lanky unicorn smiled. Hey, look, we've got a mare here, eh? And she's trying to get the password but she keeps getting it just a little wrong. She got the first 3 parts right, though, so I'm a little weirded out, eh? Doesn't she look like she works here?
Wrong! Come on! Come on, every pony!
Sorry.
Wrong! Come on, every pony here knows the password to get through phase 1.
The stout unicorn huffed. He turned to the screen.
You're right, she does look like she works here. Looks like a pilot, even. I don't recognize her, though. Maybe a new recruit? Her Highness never tells me anything about expecting new pilots. Whatever. Hey, you, out there! Stop yanking my partner's chain and give him the first password. We've got ponies out there. We still need to finish background checks on. And you're eating into our time.
Rainbow spat.
Oh, for. Just stop asking questions and let me in. I forgot the password and I'm getting tired of this crap.
Keep it down. Come on now. How many times do I have to ask you, eh? The orange pony sighed again. See, she keeps getting close, but. Rainbow growled. Should we give her a hit, maybe? The orange unicorn asked.
Are you kidding? The queen would have her horns if she just let some pony in like that.
The gray one sputtered. He turned back to the screen.
Hey, you out there! Seriously, stop messing around and.
I'm not messing around. I don't know the password, Rainbow groaned. She took a few deep breaths and calmed down. Look, guys, I'm in a bind here and I really need to get in. So what do I have to do to get into this place? Do I have to pay bits or... The gray unicorn suddenly became very excited.
Bits? Aha! Well, at last you know the secret password.
He grinned. It's not exactly secret, eh? They have to pay to get in no matter what, the orange unicorn pointed. They usually just pay at Pandemonium, not here. The gray unicorn looked at his partner with dull disappointment, then shook his head and addressed Rainbow Dash again.
Well, let's see now. Just you, right? I'd say 50 bits ought to cover it.
What? Rainbow blurted. She knew she didn't even have any bits in the first place, but that price sounded outrageous, even if she did have anything to give. She barely made She barely made that in a single paycheck back home. 50 bits was enough to stock her house with enough food to last a month. Too steep? The orange one rolled his eyes. Told you can't start that high. We don't even charge that much up at the station, eh? Try something lower. 30 bits?
30? Still too much?
The gray one frowned.
Well, every bit counts, I guess. Fine, fine. 20. That's as low as I'll go.
We'll go, the orange one corrected. Rainbow frowned. 20 bits was terribly high, given that she didn't have any bits in the first place.
Sorry, guys. I don't quite have that much.
They both looked at her with disappointment and irritation. The orange one spoke first. Then why do you waste our time like this, eh? You'd better be off trying to guess the password.
Don't give her any ideas.
The gray one snorted.
Look, Missy, just get back in line.
Rainbow was desperate. Rainbow was desperate and got on her knees to beg. She never thought she had it in her, but she knew it was amazing what a pony was capable of when her friends' lives were at stake.
Look, guys, I've got a bunch of friends out here that need help, and I need to get in there to get it for them. Please, one of them is dying, another is extremely sick, and we're all exhausted and starving, and...
Save the stub story, eh? The orange one snorted. If we start letting in one pony or a group of ponies or whatever ahead of every pony else just because of a sob story, then we may as well not even have a check-in station, eh?
Yeah, and then we'd be letting in all sorts of ponies we don't want getting through. Saboteurs and stuff like that.
The gray one sneered.
Go on now. Get in line and wait your turn so we can get back to work here.
Hey! Rainbow suddenly blurted, panicking that this wasn't going smoothly at all. Can I at least get some food? Anything? Please? The two unicorns looked at each other, shrugged, and pushed a few buttons somewhere. Rainbow took a step back as a small panel opened up on the metal slab and dropped a tiny plate with something brown and mushy on it. The hay is that? Rainbow blinked. Dollar Brown, the gray unicorn nodded.
It's all we're allowed to give out for free, but it's better than nothing. Now I'll say it again. Get back in line.
The monitor abruptly shut off. Fantastic, Rainbow thought. So much for the plan. But that didn't matter. What mattered more than anything right this second was that little plate in front of her. She sniffed it. It didn't smell poisonous, but it didn't smell edible either. Rather like terrible overcooked mushrooms, soggy and more liquid than solid, like a plate full of gross brown gelatin. The portion she'd been given was tiny. The lump of brown mush was barely big enough to get her excited, but it was food, and that's all that was important. Rainbow Dash quiet, literal. Oh, sorry, Rainbow Dash quite literally scooped the plate up in her hooves and slurped the whole thing down in one go, hungrily licking the leftover juice and finding it hard to resist eating the plate too. It tasted absolutely terrible, and she remembered Lockwood's description of the stuff way back in Pandemonium City. It tasted like a lump of dirt covered in dirt gravy. But at least it was food, nutrition, sustenance. Not not a lot, certainly, but enough to give her at least a little bit of energy. Enough to make her remember what it was like to have something in her stomach again. Belly no longer empty, but spirit horribly miffed. Oh, sorry. And spirit horribly miffed, Rainbow Dash gave another long, hard look at the door in front of her and stood as the only thing between her and helping her friends. She grit her teeth and spat on the hard metal floor. This wouldn't be happening if one of them had volunteered to come with me. Of course not. All they care about is doing things their way. She sniffed and fell back on her backside. I bet Pinky would have thought of something to do. I don't know who's speaking here, but it's okay. Let's see. Maybe if no, that's not it. Unless I no, that's too complicated. Relies too much on too many coinciding parts. Damn it all! Another bloody idea down the drain! I'm beginning to run out of options here. A crumpled paper was callously tossed aside into the steady growing pile that had long since filled, overflowed, and now buried a waste bin in the corner of the tiny study. The sun started to come in slowly through the window, shining light at the rest of the room, which was littered in books upon books upon books, a scant few of them open, but the majority of them closed and stacked in a pile of the opposite corner, from the mountain of bad ideas, and most of them looked pretty new. Beside the desk there was another, much smaller pile of books, all of these appearing quite old indeed. Dr. Whooves ran a hoof through his mane to clear it of sweat, wiping it on a nearby handkerchief. Well, it just says kerchief, but I think it's a handkerchief. Before grabbing another sheet of paper and placing it in front of him, he closed and swept the current book he had open aside and grabbed the next one in the pile. A dull brown book that was ratty and torn, and with text on the cover that was barely legible and written in an archaic style. He first blew the dust off of it and wiped it with his handkerchief to clean it off as much as he could. Satisfied that the text was visible enough, he read out loud. The Elements of Harmony, a theoretical tristity by Star Swirled 10, 15, 14, 13. It's in Roman numerals. 10, 15, 16, 17, 18. By Star Swirled 18. Ah, always good to find a book by the Star Swirled line. Star Swirled 18. That would be, let's see, 1800 years ago or so. Goodness, it's amazing that this tomb is still in decent condition. Let's see. Table of Contents. Section 1. What makes harmony? Good place to start, old boy. He opened the book and began to read, and read, and read, and read, pouring through pages with a great speed, despite not skimming in the slightest, drinking in every word as though it was sweet nourishment. That reminded him to take a drink of water from the nearby glass that was now nearly empty. The quill in his mouth scribbled across the sheet of paper before him as he took notes on his reading, and he made the occasional pleased noise whenever he found something particularly interesting. He continued to read until the sun had completely risen in the air, early morning long gone and mid-morning now on the rise. By then, his first sheet of paper was nearly completely full, and he flipped it over to continue his writing. Then he saw something on the next page that made him excited. Quite excited indeed, enough that he dropped his pen and stared at the page for a long moment. His smile was barely contained, and he quickly jotted down another set of notes. Yes! Finally! This is it! He cheered. I knew I'd find a solution eventually. Now then, I must... A knock on the door drew him from his focus. Oh, Who could it be at this time of day, and on this day in particular? He blinked as he got himself out of his chair. Don't they know I'm closed on Sundays? He slowly made his way downstairs to the sound of increasingly frantic knocking. Oi! Keep your socks on, I'm coming! He shouted as he reached the door. He opened it. What do you want? Uh, I don't know who this is. Oh, hey, Mr. Who. How many times do I have to tell you? I'm the doctor, he groaned. And what of any ideas that you might have is the biggest one that has you trying to break down my door, Come on, out with it! The grey Pegasus on the other end blinked her eyes, one at a time, before looking at the package, then back at him. Oh, right. I have a package for you. It doesn't say doctor on the package, though, so I assumed. Oh, for. What is it this time? He sighed. We've been through. We've been around here. Wait, you've been around here for. What? I don't understand this. And for. What is it this time? You've been around here for, and of this I am sure, every sodding day this week trying to give me this rubbish. I really am getting tired of this. Look, I don't want anything muffin related, nor do I want to confirm again for more than the dozenth time this month. What? Dozenth time this month that this month, like every other month, is not one that I want to be celebrating the glory of the common breakfast muffin in. The postman eagerly gave him the package, and with a cheery tone ignored everything he just said. Yep, it's your latest package from the Muffin of the Month Club. Good guess. Good guess. I've been trying to give it to you all week, but you have to sign for it, and you keep turning it away, so. The doctor maintained a blank look. I am not a member of the Bloody Muffin of the Month Club. Are you touched in the head? The Pegasus looked at the package, then back at him. But it's got your name on it. I don't care. It's not mine. Why do you... Damn it all. Here, let me see that. I can't take this any more. He took the package and then looked at it, and was absolutely dumbfounded at what he saw. His name was definitely not on the package, because if it was, they'd horribly misspelled it. He gave it back to her with a shove, and pointed at the label on the package for emphasis. See? I told you it wasn't mine. Look here. That's not my name. Huh? She blinked and she took the package from him. Yeah, it is. That's your name. That's your name, right? D. Whooves. I think. Sorry. D. Whooves. I figured when you started correcting me that it was. And she mimicked his voice. Here. The doctor. That's what the D stood for. Even if that was silly, typos are typos. First of all, the name is spelt Whooves with a W, not just an H. He explained as calmly as he could. Secondly, my first name is not Doctor. It's my title. If it was for me, it would presumably say Dr. And then, additionally, presumably, Whooves. Not this D. Whooves jumble. Not this D. Whooves jumble. It's not mine, like I told you. This isn't even my address. Address? The numbers and street name? Whooves blinked. Oh, those! Pfft, it's just faster when I just know where every pony in town lives. This is my first mistake in years. Well then, if it's not yours, whose package is this? The mailmare scratched her head, then continued with a sad tone. It's just not fair. I didn't get my Muffin of the Month package this month. And here's this one without any pony to claim it. This poor Muffin. It's probably all stale and stuff now. The doctor gave a long-suffering sigh. Look, you've wasted enough of my time for a week and a half, and as much fun as I have had repeating myself around you, and as much fun as you have having me repeat myself as is apparent from our last fortnight of performances, I really must get back to work. I have some important information I need to deliver. He brightened, apparently forgiving all previous transgression in light of a new idea. Say, you're a mare pony. You wouldn't be able to deliver a message for me, would you? That's my job, the Pegasus saluted. I need transport to Canterlot, and it's imperative I get there before sundown so I can speak with Princess Celestia. So I need to get a message to the taxi service to take me there as quickly as possible. Can you do that for me? Well, sure. Sorry. Well, sure I could. But if you're looking to get to Canterlot by sundown, you'd need a taxi cab here by, like, now! She exclaimed worriedly. All the better for you to hurry along then, he pointed. I mean, though, that they're out of service, the Pegasus explained with disappointment. I delivered a package this morning with all sorts of tools and stuff, and they said that something was really weird about their taxis. All the round wheels turned to squares, and every time they changed them out, the new wheels turned into squares too. So they're the doctor sighed disappointingly again, making a mental note that he'd been doing it a lot these days. I regrettably understand, he said with a frown. It's part of my urgency. But this has me in a bit of a spot, doesn't it? As you said, I'd have to leave now to get to the city by sundown. I could always give you a ride, she suggested sheepishly, nervously scruffing her feet through the dirt in front of his door. He blinked. I beg your pardon? He hesitantly flustered. Or she hesitantly flustered. Well, I mean, I'm done with deliveries for today. There hasn't been a lot of mail lately, see, and I have some free time. A lot of free time, actually. I could take you. I'd get you there by early afternoon if I try my hardest. I'm used to carrying heavy loads. Not that I'm calling you fat or anything. Whooves beamed. Compared to your previous advice, this is just practical, isn't it? Oh, and I suppose if I'm going to be accepting a ride from you, I'd best of keeping up some form of social requisite. Can't look too strange, right? He laughed, and the mare laughed with him, despite her face making it clear that she had not understood in the slightest. They stopped abruptly and stared at one another for a moment. Oh, right. If I'm going to be accepting a ride from you, I should at least get your name, seeing as you already know mine. Right, she nodded eagerly, blushing lightly. My name's Whooves, too. My last name, I mean. Our names are almost the same, except mine is spelled with the W. Oh, without the W. Sorry. He nodded, privately noting his confusion over her sudden bewildered behavior, but said nothing. About her behavior, anyway. At any rate, it is time to bust a move on, as the teenagers are saying these days. I don't remember if they do or not. She was staring at him, and it was usually bad news when ponies were staring at him for too long, and this was his best bet to arrive in time. He made a decision to intervene. Very well then, Miss Whooves. You can call me Derpy, she smiled, batting her eyelashes, one at a time. That's my first name. He tried to fight the blank look overtaking him. Right. Derpy. Yes, well, let me grab my coat and tie, and we'll be on our merry way. He stopped and raised an eyebrow to look at her in confusion for a moment. He blinked and looked at the package, then back at her, and smiled awkwardly. Could it be? Wait, hold on, no. I can't get that thought out of my head. Derpy Whooves? D. Whooves? My dear, that muffin package is yours. She looked at the package and squinted, then tapped herself on the head. Well now, isn't that weird? Some pony at the post office made a boo-boo. I'm not supposed to be delivering my own mail. They must have accidentally put it in my mail bin instead of giving it to me. That's why I didn't think it was for me. Oh no! My muffin! She wailed in dismay. Rainbow paced back and forth, and impatiently tapped her hoof on the hard metal surface of the chamber as she looked out the nearby window and out towards the sea. She was so close to getting help, so close to utopia and home beyond that. So, why did it feel so far? She needed to get in this damned harbor so she could get help for the others. Otherwise, what was the point in coming here by herself? She couldn't fly back so soon. Not after all she'd said. Not until they were willing to admit their mistakes. As she looked out at the vast blue expanse of ocean, an idea struck her. A brilliant idea. She remembered TikTok's map, at least partially. From what she could recall from her brief glances at it in the past day or so, the ocean itself wasn't really that wide. Maybe about as wide across as the entire distance from the gate to the coast if she traveled a straight line. Hence, if she was to be able to walk that distance, it would take her about 3 or 4 days without rest. At Sonic Rainbow speeds, plus rest periods, since keeping up that speed was exhausting, she'd be able to fly across in less than a third of that. Maybe half a day if the wind was at her back, which, of course, it always would be. Well, okay, okay, she thought. If I can't get help from the jerks here, maybe the ponies in the port across the sea would be willing to help. But where was the closest port? No pony had used the map to look at the southern continent yet. She swallowed her pride and walked over to the monitor station again, pushing the button as before and watching as the monitor flashed to life and the unicorn from before appeared on the screen, looking only mildly annoyed at seeing her there. Alright. Oh, it's you again, he frowned. What is it now? Just be patient, eh? We're moving as fast as we can. But this is a first come first served establishment. We've got to wait. You've got to wait your turn just like every pony else.
I just need to ask a simple question. Then I'm out of your hair, okay?
She said clearly and patiently. A question? Sure, I guess. Okay, go ahead. Make it quick, eh?
When ships from here leave port, where do they usually dock when they reach the other side of the ocean?
Why is that important? He said with a raised eyebrow. You'll get there all the same, eh?
I'm just curious is all.
Rainbow nodded.
If you don't know, that's fine. I'll figure it out somehow.
The orange unicorn blinked and looked thoughtful for a moment. Well, he said at last, the closest port would probably be New Haven, I guess. Certainly closer than Utopia proper, eh? Not like we actually dock there, though.
Okay, good. So where is New Haven exactly? If you were to go directly there from here, which way would you go?
The orange unicorn thought a moment again, then shook his head and turned to the side, yelling at his partner. Hey, which way would you go to get to New Haven? The other unicorn's voice called back from the other room.
It's southwest of here. You know that.
And,
Any more details than that? Like a bearing I should take, or...
Rainbow asked. Any more details than that? Like a bearing?
I don't know. Maybe 15 degrees south by southwest, give or take. Assume you left from the hangar bay.
The other unicorn said as he walked into the frame.
Why? What's that? Oh, you.
He sneered as he looked toward the screen.
What do you want?
I think she gave up on waiting, eh? She's asking where New Haven is, the orange one explained. I figured you know more about it than I do. What with being the supervisor and all, eh?
What? Why is she asking about New Haven? Well, since I can't get help here, I figure I'd try to get help there, Rainbow said curtly. I guess since you don't want to help me get my friends here, sorry. I guess since you don't want to help me get my friends here, Shame, too. They got a lot of bits. Nice try, kiddo, but I'm not stupid.
The gray one snickered.
If they had money, they'd have sent you with some to buy your way in. So you want to know where New Haven is, huh? Why? Planned on flying there yourself, didn't you? Well, yeah, Rainbow scoffed, looking quite confident. What, you think I can't do it?
Wait, Really? The orange one blinked. You're crazy, lady. You know there's...
No, no, don't try to stop her.
The gray one interjected.
She thinks she can. She thinks she can get across the sea all by herself. Let her try then. She'll hit the equator and come crawling back in no time. Then maybe she'll reconsider waiting in line a little, huh?
He smirked and added.
Or maybe she'll even consider an alternative, alternate form of payment to get through. Money isn't everything, you know. Pegasus aren't really my thing, but
Rainbow sneered and turned away from the monitor, then started heading for the gate on the other end of the chamber, ignoring the caterwauls from the other end of the screen until it shut off. The gateway opened before her, and she stormed out in a huff. Lightning crackled through her feathers as anger spread through her heart. Why, she thought, did so many stallions have to be such jerks? The bad ones here were worse than the worst ones back at home. She'd show those losers that she was more than capable of crossing the ocean herself. She'd get uh, she'd get help from across the sea to come to her friend's aid, and they'd thank her and praise her and apologize for everything they'd done. Sure, it might take a little longer than her original idea, but it was still faster than theirs by about a full day, if not a little more. Then whatever help she brought with her would be able to take them all straight back across. No need to deal with the idiots at Hope's Point who asked for a password that she was sure none of the others knew anything about. After all, if one of them knew the password, they'd said it at some point, right? Why would they keep it a secret? She approached the end of the landing strip and looked out over the edge and down the sand below, shaking her head at the complete lack of activity below. Really, why was TikTok so concerned about the beach being so dangerous? Whatever, Rainbow Dash thought. This should be a piece of cake. Just a little flight across the sea, the cool ocean breeze flowing through her hair, just like summer back at home. Let's see, she said out loud. 15 degrees south by southwest. She frowned as she looked skyward, remembering that there were no stars, no moon or sun, or anything at all really to gauge direction by. Not that she knew if this world's sun even set in the same cardinal direction as theirs did. Well, at the very least, she knew where south and southwest were since the coastline was nice and nearly parallel to the equator near Hope's Point, if the map was anything to go by, and if she was off by a few degrees, it wouldn't be a big deal. She'd be able to find the port eventually, and all would be well. She'd have help sent along by tomorrow morning, just as the others would still be in that stupid canyon. They'd see then. They'd see how much they should have listened to her. Taking off, Rainbow circled a wide arc around the port city to try and figure out what the hay they were so protective of that they had a giant shield for, and why they didn't just let any pony in without money or a password or waiting for an inordinate amount of time. Hope's Point, at first impression, didn't seem to be the beacon of hope that any pony had made it out to be, from TikTok all the way down to Lockwood. Sighing heavily and turning back towards the southwest, she kicked her hooves together and rocketed in a blaze of lightning and wind and thunder. Faster and faster until she exploded in a sonic rainbow and shot off toward her next destination. Here we are, Derpy announced cheerfully as she set the doctor down on a street just outside Cantalat Royal Palace. See, we made it in plenty of time. No pony gets a delivery done faster than Derpy Hooves. I'd bet my life on it. You certainly are most efficient, my dear. Hooves cleared his throat and relaxed his muscles for the first time in a few hours. Next time, though, I'd appreciate it if you didn't loop and twirl so much. You might keep the odds in your favor for life bets longer. She batted her eyelashes at him, one at a time again, and proceeded to spectacularly miss his point. Oh, Next time? Is this a date you're setting up, Doc? I'm free on Wednesday. He scrunched his mouth in thought. I. What? No, I was just. And she looked so disappointed that he actually for a moment felt the smallest responsible pang of emotional awareness. Wednesday, perhaps? He nearly barked, making the male mare smile again. Before she could continue, he wrapped the situation in a bow and sent it off. Thank you for the ride, Derpy. I am most grateful for the effort. No trouble at all, she grinned as she took off. I've got to get back to Ponyville, though. Sorry I can't give you a ride back. Are you going to be okay? I'll be fine, thanks, he smiled. And I do apologize for my behavior the last few times we've met. It's okay, Doc, she said brightly. You're cute, so you're forgiven. Bye. I'm adorable? Right. He started. He stared flatly as she took off, but as she bobbed away, he sighed tolerantly. Oi, silly filly. Uh, Never mind. I have business to attend to. Allons-y. The royal palace always looked so impressive every time he saw it, but today the doctor could not take the time to enjoy the sight as much as he would have liked. The gleaming spires, the shining golds, whites, and purples, the gorgeous garden, everything, all of it just a distraction from his mission, but all of it a reminder of what he was trying to save. The halls were not quite as he remembered them, though, not since the royal wedding at least. Today, no, the halls were much different from how he was used to seeing them on an average, or at least as average as could be. Today, they were loud. Today, they were crowded, with ponies from all walks of life as he could see. Hardened agricultural workers, scientists, well to do noble ponies, and entrepreneurs, and everything in between, of all sizes and ages. All of them stretched in a line that wound through the halls and up the stairs, all the way from far outside the palace and even beginning to work its way into the city proper. Though the main courtyard, the entrance chamber, the hallways after hallways, all the way to the main hall, and finally into the throne room, where the line stopped at the doors as one pony at a time was granted entry. Truthfully, the doctor had never, in all the times he'd ever visited the palace, seen it so overwhelmingly crowded with day to day affairs like this, only for particularly notable events that, even then, were usually invitation only. The royal guards were all stressed as well, patrolling the halls in greater numbers than usual at regular intervals, making sure no pony cut in line or got ornery with one another. Each of them rigidly at attention with the same fierce stonewall stare he was used to. It wasn't quite as packed as it was leading into the royal wedding some months back, but it was still disturbing to see this many armed and armored guards deployed, especially knowing that in the event his plans failed, they'd amount to nothing anyway. He walked cautiously up to a desk that had been set up just outside the throne room doors, where a single blue unicorn mare sat, with an orange mane kept in a short bun, a pair of horn-rimmed glasses, and a tiny little green tie. She was poring over paperwork and busily scribbling down things with her incredibly large and perhaps slightly gaudy peacock feather quill as ponies in another line, one that seemed to be just for the desk, spoke with her. The doctor got into the line as was proper courtesy, watching with dismay as the ponies would walk away from the desk with disgruntled looks, muttering to themselves and shaking their heads. Finally, it was his turn, and he stepped forth and made to speak. She spoke first. Name? She asked curtly. He blinked. I'm the doctor. Her evil eye was intense. Doctor, or Doctor what? Whooves blinked, and though he immediately sympathized with anyone actively writing a ledger, she could still be nicer about it. Hooves, he said, putting on his best cordial attitude. Do you have an appointment, Dr. Hooves? The mare huffed, adding a little scribble to her tablet. Just the doctor will do. The doctor, she said, raising an eyebrow. Well, like you're the only one. Do you have an appointment or not? Well, no, I suppose I don't, he admitted. I was unaware that I was unaware there were going to be all this ticker tape managing this large of a crowd so late in the day. To be honest, the mayor gave an aggressive sigh. Then please return to the back of the line. Didn't you see the sign out front? Or didn't you see the sign out front? Sorry, my secretary voice isn't very good. Whooves remembered the large banner that had been placed over the entryway, and now knew what exactly it meant. Of course, appointment line forms to the left didn't seem very intuitive to him at the time, seeing as there was no line to the left up until he reached this far in. Nonetheless, he was not to be deterred, not when it was this important. What is all this? He asked. I've no problem with the queue, but this is a little much. I've never seen it this busy on a regular day. What's going on? He curious. His curiosity was, of course, not entirely genuine, but he faked it well enough. He knew what was going on, but he needed confirmation before he could anticipate his itinerary. Well, a lot has been happening lately. All over the kingdom, in fact, the mayor said simply, removing her glasses to talk with him, seeing as he was the only one in her line, and seeing as all he was doing by talking was wasting his own time. She didn't mind answering a few questions. These ponies are from all over asking for aid with all sorts of bizarre things that defy the basic understandings of logic and sense. If you catch my meaning. Strange happenings. What sort of things? The doctor asked wearily. Well, let's see. I have a few specific instances that have been brought up through the appointment system. Oh, here we go. A stallion was here earlier today from Philadelphia and claims he woke up to discover that his pumpkin patch had all turned into jack-o'-lanterns overnight, each of them with the same strange face on them. He thinks he was vandalized somehow, like a prank, and wants compensation. And here's one direct from a representative of Cloudsdare's weather factory, claiming that some of their clouds have started turning pink on the south end of the city, and a and smell of sugary sweet. Say it kind of tasted like cotton candy. Says it kind of tasted like cotton candy, like cotton candy. He gulped. It's starting faster than I anticipated. Starting? The mayor blinked. What starting? Hooves put his hooves on the desk, his tone stern but not angry. My dear mayor, it is imperative that I speak with Princess Celestia immediately. It is a matter of grave importance. So, if you please... The mayor chortled. Oh, I haven't heard that one before. Look, you're wasting your time here talking with me. Are you going to get to the back of the line or not? The doctor shook his head and pressed his request. If this were any other occasion, I would, but this is a crucial matter that requires Celestia's attention immediately. She knows me personally, I'm sure. Well, I'm afraid you're just going to have to get in line then anyway, Doctor. The mayor huffed it so angrily that he could hear her drop the capable letter. Princess Celestia isn't seeing any pony at the moment, and she is indisposed. You're in line to see Princess Cadence. Princess Cadence? Hooves blinked in astonishment. Where's... The mayor snorted. That's really none of your business. But if you must know, Princess Celestia is dreadfully busy at the moment and has left her daily bureaucrat's duties to Princess Cadence and the royal court, who are all working day and night to try and get this line moving as quickly as possible. Speaking of lines, since you don't have an appointment, get to the back of it! The doctor hummed to himself, then realized something that he was surprised he hadn't thought of a moment ago. Princess Celestia must know what's going on, and was trying to stop it any way she could. Princess Luna must be uh, in on it too, since otherwise she would be here handling things. And the clerk had mentioned that Princess Cadence and the court were taking over both day and night duties. He needed to see Celestia, though, but where was she? How could he possibly find. Perhaps the clerk was still of some use. A little honesty would probably go a long way, if his assumptions were correct. Look, he said as he drew back and returned to a cordial tone. I'm quite serious when I say I'm not here to complain about my pears or what have you turning into butter, or anything ridiculous like that. I hate pears anyways. I think of it as an improvement. I'm here to speak to Princess Celestia, the only Princess Celestia, and it is a matter in relation to what she is currently doing now instead of being here to deal with this line of ponies. So if you please. Oh, and what exactly would that be? The mayor scoffed. He leaned in and whispered, I have information regarding Discord. The mayor blinked and nodded. Well, why didn't you say so? Hold here, I'll get some pony for you that can take you to the princess immediately. He stifled it as best he could for as long as he could, which was not long. His immediate failure let out the bottled up, relieved sigh. Thank you. The clerk left her desk at a brisk but nonchalant pace, leaving Whooves to be alone with nothing but his thoughts, and of course the several dozen ponies in line giving him curt glares, apparently, apparently thinking him cutting in line. As he waited, he watched the trio of guards stationed at the doors open them to let a pony out, a mint green unicorn mare with a two-colored white and sea green mane that was recognized from Ponyville. Then they let the next pony in line, a gold earth pony stallion with a blue mane, through the doors to replace her. Before they closed back up again, the doctor caught a glimpse of, true enough, Princess Cadence seated upon the throne with a large group of ponies surrounding her, obviously some sort of obviously some sorts of advisors assigned to help the inexperienced princess with the duties of ruling in Celestia's and Luna's stead. He wanted to wave, but knew it was a useless gesture from this far away, and that he wouldn't be met with exactly approving glances from any pony else in the room. Still, it was good to see her again, if only for a few seconds and from a great distance. She'd grown up so fast. His attention turned to the crowd, and he became rather disappointed that things had gotten this bad already, or even how it had managed to do so. Discord was still sealed, and yet his magic was already popping up everywhere and caused trouble. No, not trouble. Chaos. Ponies in line stood, exhausted, clearly having been in line for days if they were this far up, taking time to nap every now and then. The doctor wondered if this line was given an official rest point, or if the guards handled spot saving for ponies who needed to use the facilities. What about food? No, Hooves thought. Surely they would be provided as well. Celestia was nothing if not on top of making sure her subjects were treated well. Some of the ponies kept with them some sort of demonstration of what had happened to them, though how many of those were real was up for debate. Discord's magic was capable of some astounding things, but some of the examples he'd seen here were easily falsifiable. Still, the rampant display of such things made him sure of his theory. Caged animals with bizarre features, such as rabbits with extraordinary long ears and a dog with what that was meowing. Food that had been mishappened, from apples shaped like pineapples to kiwis no larger than grapes. Strange happenings indeed. He was drawn from the crowd when the clerk returned with another pony in tow. It was hard for the doctor to ignore the significance of the newcomer, given the hurried and hushed whispers from behind him. Hooves bowed only lightly, but was stopped midway through the gesture when the other pony spoke. Okay. There's no need for any of that now, friend, the stallion said in a kind voice. I'm not really fond of all the royal treatment. I don't think I'm ever going to get used to it, to be honest. Ah, Right. Of course, Prince. And no need for any of that either. We've known each other long enough, and I think that you can call me by my name. Hooves nodded with a smile. Of course. Shining armor. Shining armor, resplendent in a brand, resplendent. I don't know what that is. Replaced in a brand new suit of decorative armor, gold and decorated with gems and metals, stepped forward and offered a hoof for the doctor to shake. The earth pony smiled broadly as he did so. Uh, yes, well, my wife insists I look my best when attending to formal matters such as these, he admitted sheepishly. I'm not too keen on all the shininess. And he stopped the doctor from commenting on the concept with a good-natured grin, and proceeded to do all the work for him. But she says it fits my name so well, and that with her being in charge right now and all, I figured it's best to just go with it. It's growing on me, though. I know it's making the other prince a little jealous, he added with a light smile. Oh, Prince Blueblood, you are a dick. Hooves chuckled, resisting the temptation to get lost in a jungle of fond memories, some of which he could recall where shining armor were just when shining armor was just a little coat. How are you? How are you, Shining? It's been ages since we last spoke, stallion to stallion. I've been better. What with all the work lately. It's good to see you, Hooves. The doctor, please. The doctor smirked. If we're going to insist on going by preferred names. Right, of course, Doctor. To business, then, Shining said in a hushed tone, his voice now very serious as he leaned in to excuse me, leaned in to speak with the other stallion. Krillstroke here tells me you have some information on Discord. The princess asked me to see to it that any pony that did is to see her immediately. She's hoping they might have some information that would be useful. Now, or did she now? Hooves blinked as he followed behind Shining, who had started to leave the main hall toward a side corridor. Regrettably, most of the information we get is from historians or theologists without any new or enlightening to report. And occasionally we get a doomsday prophet or two, and the princess just shoos them away. Nothing too helpful to our cause, you see. But you, my good friend, you're a pretty reliable sort. You always have been. I certainly hope you have some information that will be of use to us. I assure you I do, the doctor admitted with a dismal tone. It's certainly not good news. I'll say that much. Shining remained silent for a moment, then spoke again. The princess says that Discord seal breaking has something to do with the disappearance of the wielders, the elements of harmony. Of the wielders of the elements of harmony. I'm sure you know who they are, do you not? Hooves nodded glumly. Yes, er, mm, I, how do they put it these days? Feel for you, Shining, and for all these, and for all their families and their friends. This sort of degrading amalgamation of all entropy and chaos must be rather necessarily hard on you all. Shining continued. We've more or less confirmed the theory, considering some of the visitors we've had earlier in the week. One in particularly actually let us know all about it within a few hours of the trouble starting. Poor kid. Luckily, mother and father are taking care of him. They'd never forgive themselves if something happened to Spike. When I speak to the princess, I hope you'll forgive me when you hear everything I have to say. This earned the doctor a raised eyebrow. What? Wait, what? Oh, okay. Sorry. What I mean is, for your sake, most everyone's sake, I haven't been exactly forthright with the extent of my knowledge for, well, if I wanted to be literal, all time. But to put it but to put it in a way that might infuriate you sometime after my explanation, since I've known you. Even if whatever you have to say is something we don't want to hear, you wouldn't be here if you wished us ill will. I believe that. The doctor nodded again. There's a lot at stake here, and I have the means of shining a light on those stakes. Frankly, it has to deal with where your sister and her friends are. Shining stopped and turned sharply. You? You know where they are? He asked as he angrily stamped a hoof. Why haven't you come forward sooner? Have you any idea how worried we've all been for them? Hooves frowned, not expecting such a short response so soon. The most I'll say on the subject now is that I couldn't come forward until I was certain I had a solution that would work. Otherwise, all I'd be doing to possibly instig- instigating more chaos as well as we all try to figure it out. He was firm and continued. It's a long story, and Shining stood tall, the doctor's or barring the doctor's path with his own broad figure. I'd like to know where my sister is, if you don't mind, now. Unintimidated simply because he knew the other stallion well enough to know he wouldn't be that crass, the doctor stood firm, form, sorry. We're short on time, Shining. I have to relate this story to the princess anyway, so why don't we go to her so I can tell you all together? I'm getting bad at this reading now. Shining sighed, and like the air coming out of a balloon, he made the visible effort to calm down. Right, right. Forgive me. I'm just afraid for her all is all. Afraid for her is all. Her last known whereabouts were the Everfree Forest, after all. Hooves nodded in glum understanding, and they continued through the hall until suddenly Shining stopped and faced a completely blank wall. The doctor, enjoying a rare moment of genius, if mild curiosity, watched intently. Oh, genuine, not genius. Genuine, if mild, curiosity, watched intently. Shining's horn glowed and coated the wall, and sections of it opened up. There's a hidden chamber on this wall too? The doctor blinked for a moment, considering the floor plan of the palace. I never knew of this particular secret in this particular royal edifice. Well, that's the point, isn't it? The princess had Discord's statue moved here after he was sealed away this time. She told me everything about it, Shining explained as they entered. Last time his seal weakened, it broke very suddenly when exposed directly to even just a little bit of chaos. So she decided to take preventative measures. Good thing, too, given all that's happening. But I doubt even the princess could have anticipated this. A wise decision, Whooves said with real admiration. The princess always was one to take necessary precautions, even if she is a little dependent on the actions of others. The pair walked down a long hallway that was completely devoid of decor of any kind. The door shut behind them as they got a few paces in, and as the two approached the other end of the hall, they met another wall. Shining opened this one as well in the same way as the first, and the two entered. The doctor was, for just a moment, pleased to be surprised again so quickly before re just or registering the severity of the circumstance or the circumstances. Discord's statue was there, of course, in the center of the room and looking every bit as solid and true as it had the last time he'd seen it, minus a small abrasion around Draconequus's midsection, about where he'd expect the heart to be. Celestia, of course, was what really. No, Celestia, of course, was what surprised Hooves. There she was, horn aglow with a fiery white light that completely enshrouded the statue. Her features weak but focused. She did not divert her attention as Shining and the doctor entered the chamber. Your Highness, Shining bowed, and after a moment of realization, the doctor hesitantly followed suit, having nearly forgotten proper protocol. I bring another visitor who claims to have information on Discord. Very important information, he says, I might add. Celestia blinked. Her horn glow began dimming, but not, the doctor noted grimly, exhaustingly entirely. So she could focus on the conversation at hand. As the glow became considerably easier on her eyes, and before she turned to look at them, she said with the faintest trace of weariness, Who is it? Precisely. She turned and smiled lightly when she saw who the visitor was. Oh, Doctor! This is a surprise, and a most pleasant one at that. How are you? It feels like it's been ages. How long has it been since you and I talked privately? 90 years, 4 months, 2 weeks, 6 days, 13 hours. The doctor said with a tight-lipped smile, watching Shining's expression become quite confused. Give or take a few minutes, of course. I'm sorry I don't visit often anymore, Your Highness. But, well, my duties have gotten, what is the best way to put this? Well, more strenuous in recent months. Even more so in recent days. He shook his head and spoke firmly. But this isn't the time for pleasantries. Shining is right. I bring information that will be of great interest to you. Is that so, Celestia Holmes? Well then, tell me what you know. If it will, if it will help my sister and I in any way, I would be grateful. I have something more than that, Your Highness. The doctor nodded briefly. It's rather long, but I must get started at what I'd consider the most appropriate beginning. I will try to be as brief as I can. So, if you please, save your questions until the end. I take it Shining is going to be helping us, so I trust him to be of aid in this. Yes, if it will make it easier to regale your story, by all means. Celestia smiled. Go on then, Doctor. It's been a long time since I heard you explain yourself to any pony, after all. Whooves took a deep breath and took his stopwatch out of his coat pocket. Now, Shining Armor, you are present in this room, my friend, and your sister is the one at risk. So my beginnings, this particular block of explanation for your particular benefit is most ideal. I hope I hope that's agreeable to you too. Shining blinked, and the doctor decided to take it as willingness to proceed. You know me, in all your glorious. Wait, what? I don't know who this is talking. Shining. Oh, okay. I thought. You know me, in all your glorious, if a sight bit overstated. No offense. Uh, naivety. Uh, naivety. I don't know how to pronounce that. I don't know the next pronouncing of that. Simply by an innocent enough moniker. The acerbly, or presumably, titled Doctor, when the apparent equine-minded tracking on of Whooves together. One Dr. Whooves, clockmaker extraordinaire, who has been seen in this place for as far back as you can remember. And while this is certainly all true, there is more to that statement, and indeed to myself, that I've been previously considered sharing. Yes, indeed, there is far more to your good doctor than meets the eye. It was hours later when Rainbow finally grew tired and slowed down to a much more manageable pace, letting the wind at her back carry underneath her wings and drive her forward. The sea still stretched on for miles ahead, but she knew she'd made an impressive distance in the short amount of time she'd been flying. She couldn't even see the northern continent behind her anymore. A few more hours and she'd be just past the equator, halfway to the bright and beautiful coast of the south, assuming it was as lovely as every pony kept saying it was. There was something strange up ahead, though, something familiar and yet different and all the same. The primary reason she'd slowed down had been to take it easy and let the ocean's air currents carry her along. But the sight ahead was enough to make her curious enough that she'd have slowed down anyway. Several minutes ago, on the horizon, she'd caught sight of what could only be described as a massive storm that coated across the entire sky in the south, from the ocean on up before dissipating into the veil of the beacon above. But it looked more as if the veil of magic from the beacon in pandemonium was cascading down toward the ocean and stopping dead, and where it hit the sea itself was where the storm cloud seemed to be forming. Truth be told, it looked more like a wall than a cloud. Whatever it was, Dash thought it wasn't going to deter her from getting to the other side of the ocean, not with everything that was at stake. The air currents that streamed about her were easily manipulated into carrying her along at a comfortable speed without exerting any physical effort. The cloud wall grew bigger and bigger, and she got closer to it, and when she was only a few miles out from it, she could see exactly what was happening on this end. The beacon's veil was indeed coming down into the ocean somewhere inside the wall, but how far in she wasn't exactly sure. The vast field of stormy weather between the sea and the veil itself was just ahead, and seemed to be getting worse and further in it went. The further in it went, she could see lightning dance about, and fire smoldering upon the sea itself without dying out. The sea and sky crunched and bubbled and thrashed about in a pain tantrum. It was like looking into pure destruction made manifested and channeled into a storm of hate and power that stretched on for miles and miles and didn't seem to end. How big was it? Reminds me of Jupiter. I don't know why. Just that description reminds me of Jupiter. Well, whatever it was in Rainbow Dash's way. No, sorry. No storm's gonna scare me away, no matter how big it is, she snorted. If I don't get to the other side, I'll never be able to get help for the others. She straightened her goggles over her face and zipped her jacket, putting on the most confident face possible despite being the only pony around to see it. Let's do this! She swept around in a wide downward arc to build up some speed, and in a flash she was off in a fury, her body alive with blue and white lightning as she raced into the storm's borders. Within the first few minutes, things were going well as far as Dash was concerned. Nothing to worry about. She was the master of weather. This was nothing for her. Lightning from the storm snaked around her. Thunder cracked in the distance. Fierce wind swept through her mane and bit at her coat, and from below tendrils of flame lapped up toward her as though hungry for prey. This was nothing, though. Fool's play. A game with the deck stacked in her favor. Only the fires beneath her would not respond to her control, but they were easy enough to avoid with just a little vigilance. Lightning that struck at her was absorbed harmlessly into her trail. The wind that blew in her face swept along her and formed a tailwind without hesitation. She could get through this. She would get through this. This was nothing. As she got further in, she noticed it was becoming harder and harder, though, to control the weather around her. So much for nothing, she thought. Lightning came too close for comfort, and she was forced to roll to avoid it in order to sweep it through her path and absorb it into her own stream. The winds grew more intense and stopped coming to her aid, but at least she was still able to push through them. The fires below lashed out with more intensity, but with her daft agility, they were nothing more than a distraction. Her confidence continued to stay high even despite losing her ease of travel, and if anything was bolstered by being able to weather the storm mostly without her magic. What? Let me read that again. Her confidence continued to stay high even despite losing her ease of travel, and if anything was bolstered by being able to weather the storm mostly without her magic. I don't understand what it means. This wasn't nothing anymore, but damn it, it was fun. This fun did not last long. She got further into the storm now, where the darkness surrounded her and the only light was from the fires below and the cracks of lightning around her and from her own bright blue trail that still trickled along behind her. though it was slowing down, dying out. The lightning around her no longer seemed natural, no longer seemed right. When she would dodge it, it would snake around her own lightning trail and come for her again, forcing her to speed up to avoid them, barely fast enough to avoid the living electrical currents. Even the winds were against her, shifting directions at random and seemingly working together with the lightning to force her into its path. She dodged and rolled, spun and looped, twisted and turned, zigged and zagged, and slowly but surely she was moving forward. Her pace was slow, her focus grim, her teeth grit, and her mind set. But still, she moved forward. Forward, straight into the eye of the storm. Rainbow was surprised, to say the least, that the eye of the storm stretched in a straight line in both directions as far as she could see. But that wasn't important right now. What was important was that the storm's intensity flared up to levels she thought impossible, exactly the opposite of what she expected the eye to be doing. Lightning followed her more closely now, not even bothering with any pretense of being natural any longer. Not even bothering to pretend not to be actively pursuing her like a wolf stalking a deer. The wind suddenly completely stopped, luring Rainbow into a sense of brief security, then picked up with such intensity that Rainbow was sent spiraling out of control. She swooped around to regain her momentum and direction. In the darkness, she could not even tell which was up or down, or if she was even still headed south or north. A flash of lightning sprung up from underneath her unexpectedly, and in the fleeting second she had before the bolt came too close to her, she saw something beneath her. A glimmer of some kind. She was not sure what it was, but it was a guide that was all that mattered in the darkness. As the lightning streaked past her face, she dove toward what she'd seen. The blast of lightning behind her sparkled and sizzled as it wheeled around and shot straight at her. Again. Straight at and shot straight sorry. Around as she and shot straight at her again. It was hungry. She kicked her hooves together in hopes that her own lightning would merge with the stray bolt, but it dodged. It dodged. She panicked as the wind suddenly changed directions again and sent her flying right at the bolt. Sorry. And sorry. Where was I? Stupid scrolling. She panicked as the wind suddenly changed direction again and sent her flying right at the bolt. The only thing that kept her alive was her own lightning stream around her defensively, subconsciously absorbing the majority of the shock, but it hadn't caught all of it. The pain was incredible, more like she'd been hit by a train than a bolt of electricity. Her wings went numb. She fell, and fell, and then she hit water. She felt the currents drag her along as she began to lose consciousness, but there was something odd about how they moved. What happened next took seconds. They seemed to all be moving in a single direction, and she flowed along the current, and then felt herself fall again, down with the water until she hit something solid, but soft. Rolled and rolled, then came to a stop. Rolled and rolled, then came to a stop when she struck something else, something solid and hard. Her head screamed in pain, her vision blurred. Then she closed her eyes. And and so that, in the proverbial nutshell, is the plan, the doctor finished with a tired sigh. I know it's not much, but after a week plus of researching, it's bloody well the best thing I can think of. If you have another idea, Your Highness, I'd be glad to hear it, though at this point I'm willing to try anything. Celestia's face had remained thoroughly stoic throughout the doctor's tale, a stark contrast to Shining Armor, who appeared incredibly concerned and bewildered. He was the first to speak. If I may, Doctor, is this really all true? I mean, it all sounds a little difficult to believe. I mean, other equestrians, other equestrias, portals, my darling little sister trapped in another world with her friends. I don't know whether to uh, dismiss it all out of hoof, or to begin to panic. Princess, please tell me that you made sense of all that. Sorry once again, I got tired. And I had to go turn the television down because it was really loud. Okay. The princess gave a slight nod. Chronomancers are very much a reality, but only a select few actually know they exist. They are still well known in legend, of course, as well as great ponies who in the past have protected this world of ours from unseen dangers, working from the shadows. I was unaware that there were more of them about in other dimensions, of course. That must be quite a closely regarded secret. Sorry, I had to Skype stuff. Weird. Alright. Hoof tilted his head and after a moment nodded. I am breaking about 3 protocols telling a deity level entity about it. Another 2 for letting Shining hear in on the information, but we're in no bones about it. Dire circumstances. The solution utilized to stop the last 2 times we could also exactly consider to be dire circumstances is not available. So it's in my job description to help find an alternative. If my contact on the other side managed to link up with Twilight and the others, she'll have likely informed them of the situation as well. Celestia sighed. You cannot deny that all of the pieces of his tale fit together or fit themselves into the puzzle perfectly. Though I do wish I'd known a little more of the particulars of your line of work, Doctor. Known that it was you who was responsible for taking care of that particular anomaly. Had I known that there was a pony out there that was supposed to seal that portal, I never would have sent my dear pupil that letter. Shining looked at the doctor with disappointment, not anger. So essentially, if I'm putting this all together properly, all of our problems now can particularly be placed in your hooves, in a manner of speaking. Hooves frowned deeply. I I apologize for my lack of punctuality in that regard. I'd like to blame it all on that silly postmail, but blaming others for their perceived mistakes or for your own is not exactly a wise idea. Not in current company. He pointed, referring to the statue of Discord. No, we needn't have any of that sort of behavior here. Celestia nodded. I worry for my dearest pupil and her friends, but I must have faith in them to overcome the dangers that may yet face them. They are strong, but I still worry all the same. But you're right, she admitted dejectedly. If your contact on the other side was unable to meet with them, or something else has happened, we may need to consider alternatives if we are to prevent a catastrophe. I'll admit, your plan is unorthodox. Unorthodox is a way of putting it. The 3 ponies looked around them in surprise as the voice seemed to have come from no. Oh, that's Discord. Unorthodox is one way of putting it. The 3 ponies looked around them in surprise, as the voice seemed to have come from nowhere, yet everywhere at once. It laughed coyly at their search, which caused Celestia to instantly turn to face the statue, narrowing her eyes and flaring her horn back up to the intensity it had been when the Doctor and Shining had first entered the chamber. Celestia said sharply, her voice full of icy distaste, "Discord!" The voice laughed again. And the 2 stallions wearily looked at the statue as well. Hooves frowned with concern as they looked at the aberration around the statue's chest, which flickered a dull purple in time with the laugh. Oh, don't be so surprised, Celestia. Did you really think your little spell could keep this insignificant little seal held for forever? You must be able to tell by now that it's weakening. You're failing, Celestia. Tisk tisk. Be that as it may, I will do whatever it takes to at the very least then slow your release, Celestia said forcibly. Your magic may be leaking and causing chaos throughout my kingdom, but so long as you are in this room, that chaos will not speed you to freedom. I will not allow you to spread your evil in my kingdom again, Discord. And now you have a plan to stop me again, blah, 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 Celestia. Discord's voice replied in an uninterested tone. I look forward to seeing you try to stop me this time. Really, I do. A shame that it really. A shame that it seems I won't be seeing those six girls again. It just won't be the same not getting to see the look on their faces when I come back to town. I miss them already. Uh, we have all the faith in the world that my sister and her friends will make it home in time to stop you, Shining snorted. You will lose, Discord, just as you did before. Faith? If that were the case, you wouldn't even be bothering with alternative solutions now, would you? Discord taunted. Not a very keen showing of loyalty toward your own flesh and blood, Prince. But then again, I've seen before just who you are most loyal to. Ah, so loyal to your one true love that even some pony that impersonates her had you wrapped around her hoof. Pathetic! Celestia held up a hoof, indicating that Shining shouldn't raise to the bait, but the prince captain had already snorted and begun speaking. I was under a mind control spell. Yes, yes, every pony heard that excuse. I wonder how much truth there really is to that. Oh, that reminds me. I'm going to have to look this Queen Chrysalis up when I break free. That mare is hot, I tell you that. Even an all-powerful god of chaos needs a little something on the side. Am I right, or am I right? Oh, don't be such a stick in the mud, Celestia. He laughed as Celestia's glare reinforced itself on him. I know it's been a few centuries or so since you've seen some action, but there's no... Discord, you are so stupid. You're just so... Ugh. This guy wrote him so perfectly. I know it's been a few centuries or so since you've seen some action, but there's no need to be such a prude about it. Oh, and as for your new friend, Discord snickered. Hooves took a step back a little as the voice seemed to come from right next to him. Tell him he's running out of time. Huh. Oh, I know it's a cliche, but I couldn't resist. Tick-tock, my little ponies, or tick-tock, my little ponies, you've only got, by the good doctor's reckoning, say, another week and a half left. 10 days? Is that all? But, I think a little effort on my part might just lower that bar a little. As he spoke, some of the stone tiles nearest to the statue began to bubble and pop like eggs in a frying pan. Celestia immediately redoubled her efforts, power surging through her horn, but even as her glow intersufficed, the doctor couldn't help but notice that not all the tiles returned to stone. Discord began to laugh, a chilling sound that showed just how ecstatic he was to be this close to victory without having to even raise a paw or talon. Rainbow Dash came to, unsure of how long she'd been out. Her head was fuzzy and her vision a little blurry, but it began to focus slowly as she looked around. Not that it was doing her much good. She put a hoof to her head and ran it through her mane. There was a throbbing sensation, but she couldn't feel any bleeding. She was still wet, too, just slightly damp. She got to her hooves and looked around, dismayed that she could hardly see anything at all in all the darkness, just faint outlines of things around her. She reached out a hoof to whatever she'd been resting against and felt something solid, something metal, something big. A spark of lightning far above her was barely enough to shine some light on her surroundings, distorted in some way not to really do much good. The object her hoof rested upon had clearly once been a large piece of something else, ripped from it and cast down where it rested and deteriorated with time. She took a single step back from the object. All around her she could see it as much as she could feel it. She was standing in sand, coarse, hard sand, soft enough to sink beneath her hooves, but certainly not something she would have liked to have hit directly. An island? Another flash of lightning above, and she could see nothing else around her but more sand dotted with more of the rusty metal debris. It seemed to form a sort of circle around her. The sand only spread out a few dozen feet before it met with something that began to clear it all away. She took a few steps in one direction because she could hear something coming from there, from where the sand washed away. She couldn't see it clearly in the darkness, but she could just make out what looked like a wall of some sort. She reached out a hoof into the black and felt water there, rushing water that cascaded upwards. A waterfall, perhaps? But waterfalls don't flow up. Another crack of lightning above shone more lightly briefly on the torrent of water that Rainbow saw now stretched for miles into the darkness above, further up than she could see. She shifted her wings, still functional, nothing broken. Fine enough that she'd be able to take off and get out of here in a moment. After she could find out where exactly here was. She shook the water uh, off of her that was still there, and tried to fathom what she was seeing. She wasn't on an island, and as she intendedly thought, at least not in the titanical sense or technical sense. She was on a circle of sand that was somehow below sea level. That what with the sea being right next to her and going up. The ocean separated here and stayed that way, and despite the darkness, the storm above did not reach down this far. However far that was, something above was distorting the light, slightly like it was shining through something clear. More water, perhaps? She sighed and sat down, her head beginning to throb again as she tried to piece together what the hay was going on. Damn it, guys! See what you made me do now? If you'd all just listened to me, I wouldn't have had to come out here and do all the work myself. This is exactly what I figured would happen. First they don't listen, then they disagree, then you go off, then you have to go off and on your own to fix everything for them by yourself. She looked above her at the barely flashing sparks of lightning, frowning at how far up they were. No wonder they didn't provide much light. That wouldn't do. She needed to at least see around her to try to figure out how to get out of this strange watery prison. She took a deep breath and clasped her hooves together, rubbing them fiercely back and forth to work up a spark of static electricity. It was harder to manually it was harder to do manually like this, but with a little focus and there, it trickled out into an electrical current between her hooves, and she separated them. A little more, and it coated her body in sparks and power, lighting up her surroundings better until she no longer needed to hold it, letting it fizzle around her. She groaned as she looked down at herself. Her jacket was torn and soaked, her goggles still on her face, but even without the light, she could feel that one of the lenses was cracked again. There was something her, bruising her, and bruising here and there. Sorry, there was some bruising here and there, likely from the impact, but nothing serious. She'd had worse crashes. Remember Ghastly Gorge? She grumbled as she looked into the wall of water like a mirror, glad to see that there wasn't any bleeding around her head. She ran a hoof through her mane again as she watched her reflection, then let out a dejected sigh. Great! How am I supposed to help the others from here? Uh, Maybe you should have stayed with the others in the first place. She was surprised at first when her reflection began to talk, and leapt back, surprised even further that the reflection did not do the same. Her reflection simply looked at her, scrutinous but uninterested, her coat and mane a dulled gray, only her ripped jacket and shattered goggles still keeping the same brightness as they were on her own form. After a second of thinking about it, she brushed it off as just nerves, because that was the only thing she could possibly think of that would explain just what she was seeing. She was tired, in a new place, encumbered by darkness, and hurt and hungry. hurt and hunger and loneliness. It was just stress, nothing more. But still, her reflection was challenging her, and that wouldn't fly. No pony challenged her and got away with it but herself. And her reflection wasn't herself, just a mirror image of herself. That made sense, right? How hard had she hit her head? Either way, Rainbow was not about to have every pony start telling her what to do. What, and waste more time along a stupid detour? That's what they're doing, she angrily told herself. Her reflection, whatever it was. Her reflection spoke placidly, low and even. Yeah, you're right. Where are you, anyway? Do you know? You're not lost, are you? Does it matter where I am? I know where I'm going and how to get there. I'm trying to help my friends because they need my help. What was it that TikTok said about your oh, wait. What was it that TikTok said about your plan again? Rainbow huffed. What? That is what doomed to fail. uh that's Rainbow huffed. What? That it was doomed to failure? Hey, it's not my fault I didn't know I needed a password or that I needed to wait in line and stuff. No pony told me anything about that. TikTok's the knowledgeable one. She should have told me. Heck, Lockwood probably knew all about it too. He's the one who knows the most about the place next to her. But no, they were all too busy thinking about themselves and their stupid plan to give me any of the info I needed. All she mentioned was bits and... What were you planning to do anyway when they asked you for money? Don't rush me, Rainbow said with a snort, crossing her forelegs. Big city like that, gotta have some use for some pony good with manual labor, she added, pounding a hoof to her chest. I'm no Applejack, but I can do perfectly fine physical work, and I'm the fastest flyer in any Equestria ever. They'd find a use for me. I'm sure of it. Fair enough, but what if that wasn't good enough? What if they refused? What if they preferred that alternate payment? You know exactly what that stallion was talking about. I'm sure he'd find a use for you. Not an option, Rainbow muttered, fighting to keep the sneers from her lip. Uh, if that's what it came down to, nope, not even gonna think about it. Like I said, not an option. Even though your friends are even though your friends all starving to death, couldn't you swallow your pride and take one for the team? Just for once? For them? No! My friends would never ask me to do something like that! And why wouldn't they? It's practical, you've got to admit. For just an instant, she considered. For a single moment, Rainbow's mind looked down a dark road. The two stallions leered at her in her memories. Money is something you give and take based on goods and services, you know. She stared into her reflection. Her eyes and mane were dull. Her feathers were matted. The pony in the mirror stared back at her, and her gaze pulled Rainbow in. She couldn't see the rest of her body, but the more she stared into her own eyes, the faster the sensation of loss settled over her. She couldn't even see her body anymore. But as the realization struck her, she simultaneously realized she could still feel it, and a chill went up her spine. What did you say to your friends when you left? Her voice was a whisper. That's what friends do. All she could see on this dark path were her own eyes, dull, complicate with the awful truth. Dully complic with the awful truth. Her wings clamped to her side, reminding her of Fluttershy when she and the rest of her friends had gone together up a mountain to confront a dragon. Suddenly, she stiffened, and tears welled up in her eyes. For a moment, she believed she really could feel two large hooves moving up her back. She imagined the weight, holding down her wings, stopping her from flying. There was a deafening roar as her own lightning defensively flared not a stone's throw from her head, and mercifully, the sudden flare of white light on the mirror made her break away. She turned, shielding her eyes from the brightness. Ah, now I see it. They wouldn't see you as a triumph, would they? In the corner of her eye, she saw that her reflection still staring at her, and she shuddered. It was a place beyond despair. To be starving, for her friends to be starving? They needed help. She needed help. They needed help so badly that. But then she shook her head violently. They've already abandoned me. I can't prove them wrong if I. I. My friends. They wouldn't. They wouldn't take me back. They're. Rainbow blinked back her tears. If I just gave in, then they'd have no reason to let me back. They'd say I did fail. If I had to give up myself. Makes sense. So you can't do the thing that would make your hard work a failure. Rainbow breathed, realizing She'd stopped. She'd stopped. She felt the blood return to her face and felt query despite her relief. I've got to show them my way works. Oh, I've got to show them my way works. Without options, though, would your friends understand when you came back and told them that you'd given up so easily? Would they even take you back after what you said to them? Rainbow was still sick to her stomach, but she could hear her own anger as she spoke. I said what needed to be said. They've all been acting stupid lately, and some pony needed to get it out in the open. To point out the bucking elephant in the room. Maybe now they'll realize their mistakes and try to fix them. Fair enough. You told them what was wrong with them in hopes of making them face their problems head on. Oh, you told them what was wrong with them in hopes of making them face their problems head on? Exactly, Rainbow said, appreciating the more familiar ground and drinking in the confidence of the familiarity and rebuilding her inner fire. When they're ready to admit they have a problem, then they can work to fix that problem and improve their situation. Simple logic. It is simple. See a problem, fix a problem. Your friends were a problem, so you ran away. Problem solved. An outright repeat launched her back to ire. To ire? I don't know. It literally says IRE. Ire. Excuse me? Rainbow's eyes flashed, and the storm flashed in turn. I didn't run away. I did not run away. I am helping them. Her reflection did not react to her anger returning. Why not stay within them then? Why not see to it that the help you wanted them to have was taken? They don't want me around. You heard them. You saw how they acted. I'm just a mean, arrogant jerk, and they have no faith in me whatsoever to solve this problem myself. So I'm doing what they want, and what I want. The pony looking back at her nodded. Good for you. You're going to prove your friends wrong so that they will give you back their loyalty, right? Rainbow was silent for a moment, exhaling to force her anger down. Her stomach growled again in and by now uncountable series. She inhaled heavily, and then just kept breathing at the intensity for nearly a minute. Or at that intensity for nearly a minute. She was teetering around through her emotions, and she needed to stop, to keep herself even. Emotions would only make her hunger worse. She pursed her lips, and nodded when she felt her pace was calmer. Well, it's what happened, isn't it? They shunned me, pushed me away just because I said some things that made them think for a second. It's not my fault they have all these problems, or that they don't want to fix them. You know what my only problem is? That they have problems. Fair enough. I think we can fix that. I wonder, though, when did you even start to notice these problems in the first place? When did I notice? Rainbow blinked. Well, right from the get-go. In our first day, here, they started acting weird, and I didn't like it one bit. The only thing you complained about when you first got here was how you didn't trust certain ponies. Just a little paranoia. Understandable. When you find yourself in a scary new place, no reason to act the way you have been. I complained about every pony listening to TikTok over me, Rainbow said blatantly. That's true, isn't it? When did you start to notice these other things, though? Like that no pony listened to you, or your opinion. Rainbow spoke slowly. weighing her memory carefully.
Well, sometime before we got to the checkpoint, I suppose. After you ran into those psycho mares, I mean. I noticed my friends were acting funny before, but after that, I really started to take notice of it. That's when it really started to bother me. About how they never listened, about how they ignored me. I was just talking with Grayscale about it, and I still would be if Twilight ever listened to me. Grayscale, huh?
Her reflection nodded, its features suddenly becoming much clearer.
Oh, yes. Grayscale Force. Gray G-Force. She's pretty cool, isn't she?
Rainbow smiled lightly.
Pretty much one of the coolest ponies I know, and that's saying a lot coming from the coolest pony I know.
Her reflection tilted her head in curiosity.
What's so cool about her anyway, I wonder? Well, for one, that awesome hairstyle. She's totally metal, and those boots of hers just add to it. She's got confidence. She's not afraid of anything that this stupid world has to throw at her. Ever since I got here, this whole place has just been a total disaster, and it's turned my friends into weak-willed jerks. She was different. She was strong. I can relate to her. I guess it's what I'm. I guess it's what I'm saying.
Her reflection hummed intently.
Just like you, with some differences, of course. She doesn't seem as talkative or passionate as you do. Kind of apathetic, actually. Well, that's just the that's just the way she talks. She knows she's cool, so she doesn't need to act cool. She just is cool. I never wanted to split from her.
Rainbow sighed. She grit her teeth.
Damn it, Twilight. Twilight just dismissed that entire group and ruined everything, huh? She made us she made us their enemies. We never had to be. Graysdale was even a new friend, right? She thought you were cool too.
Or she thought you were cool too?
Of course she was. Well, I mean, she's never said as much to you. She kind of treats everything with this indifference. Not like you. You're passionate about caring for your friends. She doesn't even seem to care about what happens to hers. That's that's not true.
Rainbow blinked, frantically trying to remember everything, positive or negative. The other Pegasus had. Sorry. Rainbow blinked frantically, trying to remember anything, positive or negative, the other Pegasus had ever actively said about her sisters. She came up blank.
Well, okay, I mean, she's a little embarrassed by them, maybe, 'cause they're not as cool as her. So she doesn't talk about them much. But she still cares about them. She has to, right? Fair point. Before the split, though, you still don't bring up as much of those problems to your friends, did you? You still kept them to yourself, even if they were new feelings, right? Well, no. Of course I didn't bring them up. I didn't need to, Rainbow hummed. Grayscale's group was doing a great job at getting us home, up until Twilight went and screwed everything up. Just one of the many things she's done wrong as our would-be leader. I remember it as Red Velvet starting all the trouble. Why don't you blame her, I wonder? Are you afraid of her?
Rainbow crossed her forelegs.
Pfft, if Pinky isn't afraid of her, then neither am I. I don't blame her because she played a mean trick on Fluttershy. She doesn't know Fluttershy like Pinks and I do. What's... what...
Oh, excuse me.
What's it matter anyway? Twilight's the one that made the final call. Pfft, I should have listened to Gray in the first place and voiced my opinion sooner. Then we wouldn't be in this mess. Right. The pony who allied herself with a psychopath, a hot-headed nutcase, an egotistical maniac, a life-sucking vampire, and whatever the fancy one is. Do you still not know what she can do? Hey now, you can't always pick your friends, Rainbow said with a shrug, noting the connection she had to the others before she'd even met. And that's not fair to her either. They're not just friends, they're family to her. You heard what Applejack said about the six of us all being so similar since we're all kind of like family too.
Even if you don't like them, you shouldn't always stick by your or you should always stick by your family. She frowned a bit, but shook her head and waited for her reflections retort. Fair point. Even if I remind you that I don't remember her even acknowledging them. Besides that, one time she brought up the point she disliked Curaçao's fanciness. Still, you seem awfully trusting of the pony who has actively tried to hurt your friends. Yet she's the one you should be listening to. She's she was just following orders, Rainbow shuffled. You saw what Starlight was capable of. She doesn't want to stand against that. I thought she wasn't afraid of anything. There's a difference between fearless and stupid, Rainbow pointed out slowly. Getting vaporized isn't very smart at all. She's fearless and smart, huh? You and she share an awful lot in common. It's no wonder after everything, you still trust her. Rainbow pressed a hoof to her cheek in active, grudging consideration. Besides, she was right, wasn't she? About everything? My friend stopped listening to me. How many ideas have you actually brought to the table? What? Rainbow blinked. You say your friends don't listen to you. What ideas have you put forth that they haven't listened to? Rainbow clicked her tongue. Well, for starters, not going through the volcano? That was a disaster just waiting to happen. Funny, I remember Applejack and Flathoof and, well, most of the group actually, all agreeing with you there. Didn't you all end up following TikTok because she insisted she was right? After dragging you all there and claiming it was fast and safe? Yeah, she was wrong. Yes, it seems that she was in the end. It seems that she was in the end. That's no fault of your friends. That's all her problem. And she can't already apologize for it? A lot. The others all forgave her for it. Why can't you? I'm not convinced. What else you got? Another thought came through her head. Another voice. Not her own or her reflections, but another voice. A familiar one. I don't get why your friends don't listen to you. You're smart. I mean, who goes through an active volcano, right? Grayscale's voice. Rainbow recognized it now. She remembered that discussion they had at the checkpoint that night, while the others were all asleep. Grayscale had been napping in the hall, and she'd snuck out to use the washroom to avoid waiting in a line. Grayscale's words inspired a thought in her head. Well, sticking around with Grayscale's group up until the argument we all had, there was nothing wrong with them. If we'd just stuck around, Pinky's right, and so was Twilight. You have no idea what might have happened. And then there were plenty of your friends that were on your side in that case too. Applejack, Flathoof. Oh, but not Twilight though. Not originally. You're right. She didn't listen to you or any of the others on your side in that situation. Something about a majority? Yeah, exactly. You see the load of a trouble that put us through. You're getting. How did you reprimand her for her decision again? Did you tell her you thought she'd made a bad choice? Well, y- yeah, of course I did. Rainbow chuckled nervously. And after we all sort of agreed to let it go, and Twilight said she'd be making better decisions in the future. Fat lot of good that did. Right, I remember now. That was the right way to go about it, you know. You know, to voice your disapproval and to alert her to the others that agreed with you, but to overall agree to improve the situation. But that wasn't what you did first. What happened before that? Before that? Before that. Rainbow suddenly felt a stinging sensation rip through her hoof, as if she'd just struck something with all her might. It made her wince and jerk it back on instinct. She took a long, hard look at her hoof, then back at her reflection, which to her surprise had a large bruise on its cheek, a dark blue, hoof-shaped bruise. She frowned and looked at her hoof again.
I hit her. Hit her? That's one way to put it, I guess. Well,
Rainbow gulped.
I'd call it more like a sweet haymaker to the face. I didn't attack her,
Rainbow snarled.
I was just.
Grayscale's voice rang through her head again.
Sometimes, Dash, push comes to shove. No pony's gonna listen to you if you don't back up your opinions. Maybe with a show of force.
She remembered that conversation from Goldridge, while the other Pegasus were while the other Pegasus was showing her around the mountain, teaching her the lay of the land so that she could try and be more informed in her decisions. Even then, she was worried that her friends would still listen to TikTok or Applejack or Twilight and discount her own opinion.
You were just. What? I was just looking out for my friends,
Rainbow said, no small amount of uncertainty in her voice.
Oh, is that what you were doing? And striking your friend accomplished that? How? Well, I mean, she put us in a lot of danger for no good. No good reason? I take it then that you didn't consider Fluttershy's comfort while she was ill a very good. Sorry. I take it then that you didn't consider Fluttershy's comfort while she was ill a very good reason. Your oldest friend cast to the wayside so that you could make a point. I didn't cast her aside,
Rainbow spat.
I wanted to do whatever it took to get her home, to get us all home. And you got angry with Twilight for disagreeing with you? I suppose I did, but
Rainbow started.
And in your anger, you struck at her when she was vulnerable. You lured her aside in a false showing of trust, and you assaulted her.
Rainbow looked at her hoof again. The stinging sensation flared up once more, and this time didn't stop.
And yet, through all this, you get mad at your friends for disagreeing with you. Imagine if they treated you the same way you treat them.
Rainbow watched as her reflection's face suddenly became covered in bruises. She could feel pain flow from every single one, suddenly flooding her senses and making her feel incredibly numb. Then the feeling stopped. Rainbow shook her head clear and looked back at her reflection again. Nothing there but what she'd looked like when she'd first looked in.
I made a bad decision. Twilight didn't deserve that at all,
Rainbow glumly admitted as she fell on her backside.
I was a jerk, and I overreacted because I thought she wasn't listening to me. But she was. They all were. I was just too focused on myself that I didn't see it. They say that the first step to fixing a problem is noticing that you have one.
Rainbow frowned, then shook her head.
I apologized for what I did. Twilight forgave me. It sounds to me like she's a bigger man than you are.
Forgiving her friends for their problems?
Rainbow snorted. What does it matter anyway? I'm still out here trying to help them while they're back there lollygagging. Grayscale said, "Oh, her again? What did she say next?"
The checkpoint again. Grayscale had mentioned something relevant to this. Of course, she'd been mainly talking about gargantuans then, giving Rainbow advice on dealing with those creatures. She didn't remember how the conversation turned back to the topic of her friends.
Well, you know how ponies are fickle. Those monsters can be just like that. When those big roaches have no use for something, they toss it aside, like garbage. Monsters are fickle, like ponies are fickle.
Rainbow said pointedly,
Ponies can toss you aside. That was her point. Friends can choose to abandon you. They stop listening, they stop caring, and kick you out. And mine did.
Her stomach grumbled as her anger flared up again, and she had to fight to keep that sick feeling down.
How did they abandon you? They seemed to be listening to everything you had to say, didn't they?
Rainbow ignored her stomach again. If she wasn't careful, she'd soon be having problems keeping the food she had just had in. No, no, of course not. Why else would I have had to yell? Because every pony's stomach was growling, like yours is now. Um, oh, well, I lost my place. Darn it. Oh, okay. We're hungry. We've been traveling. Things have been going wrong. And after you were done yelling, they told you to leave? No, not out loud. But Pinky, she said that you should go. She said that you should go. She said to stop being a meanie. I was being, I was being too mean to stay. Another memory of Grayscale's talks with her came to light. Sometimes, Dash, you're met with a hard choice. When friends stop caring about you, show them that you matter. You know what they say. You never know what you're missing until it's gone. Again, from Goldridge. At some point, Dash had sincerely asked what Grayscale would do if she was in her horseshoes. The other Pegasus's answer did not surprise her then, but it made her think now. So you flew away because they wouldn't let you stay and be mean. None of them cared that I was leaving. Did any of them try to stop me? Really? None of them tried to stop you? Rainbow stopped. Well, Pinky did. And how did you respond to her trying to get you to stay? Rainbow shook her head. I. No. She turned on me. Called me a meanie when all I was doing was trying to help. She's just like the rest of them. She stopped caring. Is that how you remember it? Rainbow frowned, remembering what she'd said to Pinky, how she'd acted. No, no, it's not. She wanted me to stay. She was worried about me, not what I said. And I left anyway. She hadn't meant to act like that. Or, she hadn't meant to act like that. Not to Pinky, not to any pony. There were a lot of things she'd said that had nothing to do with her feelings unwanted. Mean things, hurtful things. Her reflection shrugged. Some showing of loyalty that was, wasn't it? Rainbow Dash's heart sunk like a great weight in her chest, and she thought to herself intently, then nodded in remorseful understanding. She remembered her words to Applejack's about her not quite living up to the expectations of the elements of honesty. Oh, Celestia, what have I done? Rainbow said softly as she sat, letting her head sink. She put her hooves to her temples and let the tears flow. I abandoned them. The sand surrounding her, and the walls of the water beyond that darkness, until it wasn't just shadows, but an active darkness. The only thing that did not fade was her own reflection, which remained as clear as ever, even for her to see it, to observe it, to reflect upon it. It properly showed herself now, seated in the sand, her coat dimmed and her mane losing its brilliant hue and becoming a drab gray. I left them out there all alone. Now even her reflection began to dim. It faded slowly into the darkness, and she felt cold, like ice. She watched in horror as her reflection continued to vanish, and reached out a hoof to stop it. They're starving to death. Her hoof met with her reflections in the water, and she felt a wave of remorse, regret sweeping through her veins like poison. And those nutjobs are still out there, after them. What had she become? She couldn't even bear to look at herself anymore, and let her head fall. Her reflection spoke again, its voice distant and dark. When did you start to think these things about your friends? Why did you think this was the right thing to do? Rainbow looked back at her reflection, but hers wasn't there. Instead, another pony stood before her.
Grayscale Force.
Grayscale's yawning voice came again. It was the last time the two had talked one on one, deep in the mountains of Goldridge itself. It had been a private discussion despite the others being nearby, and she'd found it odd that Grayscale had said it to her out of the blue. Then she just blindly listened and agreed, glad to hear another pony speaking her wavelength, determined to keep her fears from coming true.
The thing about loyalty, Dash, it's a two-way street. Why should you be loyal to any pony that isn't loyal in return?
Now though, she saw that the intention had been right from. Sorry. Now though, she saw what the intention had been right from the start.
I listened to her over my friends,
Rainbow admitted.
I I got sucked in by her coolness. She was so much like me that I thought she got me. But all she was doing was using me.
Grayscale's image melted away and she was replaced by herself again. She began to speak rapidly as the empathy came to her.
It all makes sense now. Grayscale Force is a total.
And she and her mirror self both moved their four hooves apart, down, and together to form a square.
And I was being pretty uncool too. No, not just uncool. I was worse than that. It would be nice if I could just blame it all on her, but I can't. I messed up. I made my own mistakes. I have my own problems, and when some pony has a problem, it's their job to fix it.
Her reflection smiled at her, standing tall and shining bright enough that she could see her without her lightning. Upon her reflection's neck, a necklace with a beautiful gemstone shaped like her cutie mark, colored a gorgeous red, the element of loyalty. Her reflection spoke clearer than ever.
Do you see it now? Loyalty doesn't always mean that your friends listen to you unquestionably. It means that they can disagree with you, and you can disagree with them, but you always stick together through it.
Rainbow continued, getting to her own hooves.
It means standing by your friends, through thick and thin, whether you agree with them or not. It means being by their side through the worst of it.
She suddenly looked very solemn.
It means not abandoning them, to go off on your own.
Her reflection smiled again and nodded in understanding.
Hey, but you know what else loyalty means? It means forgiveness. It means love. Your friends still love you. They always will. So long as you return their love. So long as you are willing to stand by them.
Rainbow stood proud, her own body glowing with power, same as her reflection. While she was not actually wearing the element, she knew she didn't need it to prove who she was, what she represented. She felt a heat that started in her heart, an energy that crackled and soared, inspired to great new heights, to do anything for her friends, even if it meant swallowing her pride and asking for their forgiveness for her selfish action.
You're right. It's never too late to fix things between friends, she said,
surging forward and spreading to her full wingspan.
And it's never too late to stop being crazy and talking to myself. My friends need me. I've got to get to them. And I only know one way to go. Fast!
Rainbow kicked up and started to fly.
Up and up and up.
She could see the lightning above clearly now. She knew it was dangerous. She knew it would do nothing but give her trouble. But it would have to catch her first. Kicking her hoofs together and sparking up her lightning trail, Rainbow considered all of her thoughts on moving faster than lightning. But in order to beat lightning, far, far below, deep in the divided water, Rainbow Dash's reflection remained. As Rainbow herself flew off, her reflection smiled and faded away. Rainbow took a deep breath and kicked her hooves together again. Then lightning behind her blasted about with intense fury, scattering into the walls of water and reflecting about. She kicked again, and the lightning wrapped around her like a shell. She kicked once more with feeling, thinking only of getting back to her friends, making sure they were okay. The shell exploded outward, and Rainbow rocketed up with a burst of furious speed. She screamed up past the walls of water to her side, seeing them closing in together at the top. She kicked again, as hard as she could. Her body felt like it was on fire. She couldn't see anything but a blur of white and blue. This didn't feel anything like flying. The air around her felt stiff, yet she could still gain altitude. She couldn't feel the wind. She couldn't see anything now but the brightness and the fugous outlines of water, and up ahead the purple flashes of lightning above. The water met together ahead of her, like a lid covering a sealed container. She yelled in preemptive triumph as she met it, kicking her hooves one last time. The water was nothing before her. She rocketed through it with no resistance, firing out into the storm again with all the speed of a hurricane. The lightning above reacted to her, spurring on by her mere presence. It streaked through the sky toward her, angry that she was even there. She did not divert her course. She did not increase her speed. She did not bother to even look. She knew it was coming for her. She let her mouth curl up in a grin. Oh, wait. Oh, It struck. She exploded in a flash of blue and purple, and she streaked through the sky herself. She wasn't like lightning now. No, she was lightning. Author's note. You might notice a slight change in Doctor Who's manner of speaking here, because in essence, I've had some help in making him sound a bit more like the character the fandom has associated with him. These changes are retroactive, and you can see the very minor changes in his dialogue in earlier chapters as well. Hey, he's a chronomancer. Going back in time and fixing thing is his thing. I ain't gotta explain it. And that is the very long ending of chapter 23. Wow, that end part was awesome. Lots of Rainbow Dash. I know. Rainbow Dash and her creepy reflection, so I'm gonna have to guess that Rainbow Dash probably has multiple personality disorder at that one particular point in time. That was pretty cool. I like how the author did that. So yeah. I don't remember how he usually ends these videos, so I'm just gonna end them the way I end videos. So, thanks for watching his video, and like, subscribe, comment. He's awesome. Just because he said I could do it. Please check out my channel, Scar89. I do different readings. Not as good as the ones he does here. Definitely not as good as the one I just did. Sorry, I didn't do this well, I know, but almost up to 2.5 hours on this video. That is a lot of time. I started this at 7, so yeah. Go check out his other videos on this channel. He's awesome. He doesn't have much time to do readings because he's got school stuff and I've got school stuff. That's why I haven't been posting much on my channel at this current point in time. I might have more up later. Who knows? But with that, I guess the last outro where I repeat myself again. So, thanks for watching this video. Go check out his other videos. Go check out Doom Pie. Well, multi fanfic a day, but he's changed his name to Doom Pie. Awesome guy, good friend of mine. Does great readings. Check out my channel, Scar89. And with that, I guess I'll do his outro. Keep on spreading the magic of friendship, and I'll see you guys later.